So welcome everybody to what month is it? March 2024 koha-US Web Dev meeting. Parentheses, what is George having for lunch?
Just finished lunch.
Jimmy John's. Nice. Okay, so what do we want to talk about this month? Anybody doing anything cool with web dev stuff? I have a few things I can share while you think about it if you want to do that. So one thing I'm working on, we're migrating 2 libraries in August, and one of them is a community college, and it's my second community college. So I'm having this crisis with overlapping student ID numbers because the original community college is just putting them in raw, so like a 9-digit number, not prefixing them in any way. So I'm trying to like rein that in and come up with a prefixing structure for that. So I wrote a little script. I tried to use, so there's a prefixing plugin, and we used that, and I tried that, and I didn't like how it looked or how it was working, because you can't turn it on by branch. So instead, what I've done is used a patron attribute called student ID and made it searchable. And it's set up so they can scan their student ID in here, and then it generates a prefixed number with a identifier there into their card number field, and then we're going to use that for the username as well, so that I can make those unique, but make it like super streamlined where all they have to do is scan in a number and it generates the unique card number for them. So that's one thing I've been working on.
I like that because I'm going to have the exact same problem if we have another community college join.
Yeah. So like I said, I tried with the prefixer plugin, but like if you turn that on, we don't have it turned on for patron barcodes right now. But if you turn it on for one library, then it starts prefixing zeros for all the other libraries, which I don't want. But we needed a way to make it so that the students would still know what their card number is without having to like think about it. Because our general patron prefixing is like a 2 and then a prefix code. And then it pads it out to 14 digits. But that we decided that was too complicated, so we're just gonna prefix it with the abbreviation for the community college and then keep the 9-digit student ID numbers, which doesn't hit our 14 digits, but I don't really see any problem with that, because it works. It works. I mean, and they'll be able to. I think next step for me, I want to make sure I can make that work on the self-checkout, because this library specifically has, I went there the other day and they just have this honor system thing where the students write on a clipboard what they took. So I want to set up a koha self-checkout for them and make sure that they can just scan their student ID and it prefixes that extra card number digit on there. I think that's doable. So that's the first thing I've been working on, and I already sort of showed off the other thing I've been working on, which is my overdue generator. But I haven't actually had a chance to play with it lately. So I'll have to find it.
Everything I've been working on has to do with getting ready to add Aspen Discovery to our system. So I haven't done much in Koha in the last month or so.
It's taking a long time to pull up my reports here. I think it's this one. Oh no, hold on. I don't want to show any like patron data before I start sharing, because I don't want to have the video edited. But I think I wrote the report in such a way that it replaces all the identifiable information so I can show it off. So I'm just checking that real fast.
Okay, all right, we'll
Okay, so I can share my screen. So this is using the feature that Lucas clued us into last time about being able to run reports through templates. So I've created a little template printer thing using an overdue notice, well, not overdue notice, a notice template um, that pulls from a report that is based on the overdue print notice job. So I'm still using the print queue to pull the data for the patron, but then I'm pulling like a live copy of what they have checked out. The only thing that doesn't work, and I'm just going to take it off, is this total replacement price, and that's because of the way I have the report itself structured. But other than that, it's coming along pretty well. So like I can show you the report portion of it. So if we just grab a bunch of stuff. So the report is looking at the overdues delay, which is set for each individual library. So like this one is, it sends the first notice at 2, the second notice at 9, and the third notice at 16. And then it generates a list of overdues based on those numbers. So like the ODU 1 column is going to be things that are 2 days late. ODU 2 is whatever I said, 9. ODU 3 is 16. VODU is very overdue. It's past the 16. And then not due yet is stuff that's checked out but not due. Because I felt like our current overdue notices aren't that useful because it's just listing out like one of those sections. So I grouped it by borrower numbers so they're getting one notice with all that information on it. So like this one, since I ran it for a past date, it's just generating because there was a print notice in the past. So that's not a good use case. But if we scroll down, you can see this is the third notice that they've received about this item. This is the second notice they're receiving about this item. So I wanted it to be like a more useful print notice that's less work for the staff. I also wrote a script to make sure that these little sublists sort by call number so that when the staff members have to do a shelf check, they're not like bouncing around. Trying to think of what else I added that was snazzy. I stole Lucas's idea from conference last year about making it editable so you can unlock it for editing, add stuff, and then it that'll print. And I also added an exclusion. So like we get, for example, homebound patrons are getting notices generated because of how they're set up. But sometimes we don't want to print those. Maybe we want to use it for the shelf check, but don't actually want to print it. So the exclusion button just makes sure that it doesn't print when you click the batch print button there. And it's all formatted. It should be all formatted so that like the staff member can just print it out and fold it and stick it in an envelope. Like no need to futz with it, or like right now they're pulling it into Word and having to do a bunch of manipulation and formatting. So I think that's it. I also set it so you can do individual notices. So like if they do a shelf check, they find some stuff, check it in, they can rerun the report and then get a fresh notice that's got just what's still overdue. So I mean, it's a big nasty report and I do intend to share it at some point. I just need to get it in a more digestible form, I think. And I am using a CSS grid instead of a table because I couldn't get the tables to print the way I wanted to. So all of those little chunks of data are in grid format, so it resizes nice and clean. So that's basically it. That's the report, and then I can show the template too if I can find it. Let's just go there. I'm just testing this one. And it's just using template toolkit and a bunch of other inline styles and junk to generate the notice itself. Each individual notice, it's looping through that report and then pulling the report data into the template. and then filling in all the verbiage and stuff that I showed. And I've got some styles there that are the little buttons and like the controls and stuff are also built in this area. So like the floating control, sticky control area is built into the template itself. And then some of the functionality is actually most of the functionality of those buttons and things is in my user.js. So see if I can find it. It's this chunk. So this is what's sorting the little chunks of overdues, and then this is what's making them editable. I also made it so that the panel lights up when you bring it back. So when you unlock editing, the panel lights up to sort of indicate that you're editing it. Oh, and the button toggles are built in there. So like I made it so that the words change on the buttons when you click them, and the icons change. And I did have to do some styling of the actual print notice within the function that opens the print notice. So, like I've got the highlighting here, and I was losing that when I actually brought it over to the print. So I had to like add that back in to make sure that I still got the styling. And you do have to like enable background graphics to make that row highlighting work. And then this also controls like the page breaks and whatnot. And that's pretty much it. I'm pretty excited with how it's turning out. And I'm excited to get like real life testing on it soon. Right now I do just have it limited to Iola. I still have that problem with every library has 3 templates for every notice. So I think I can get around that where I tie in the branch with the email that's sending it. Like I think I can filter based on the email of the sending library, but I'm not there yet. What I really want to do is pare it down to 3 notice templates for all libraries, and that would solve my problems. But that's a huge amount of work that I don't have time for right now. So yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Oh, what a waste of time. I can't see any point to this.
It's
This is
not useful
awesome.
at all, right?
Yeah, it's not useful at all. It's really great. I look forward to seeing it when it's finished.
Yeah, I want to write out like a step by step and put comments and all that junk. Make like an actual little tutorial about what I did.
Yeah,
And
it's going to need
maybe
it.
that's my conference presentation for
Yeah.
koha-US. I don't know. I haven't put in a proposal yet.
Christopher's making comments in the chat box, and Chanel and Dover Public Library. Everybody wants this. So
I just think it's so like cool that we can do this sort of stuff. Like it really does sort of blow it wide open as to like building interfaces that are fed by reports and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see what else people come up with. And I had another idea that like left me. I definitely want to do one that's for like item billing, because that's a request I get a lot, where we can make a print template for an invoice that the library send to each other, because that's something we're sort of lacking at this point. Oh, dashboarding. I started playing with that too. I want to make dashboards. Let me see if I can find that. If other people have stuff they want to talk about, please do.
was just going to mention that I went to the Koha wiki this morning and it seems to be down. And I don't know who controls that out in the world, but
Yeah, I had the same problem earlier because I was trying to look up something on the wiki during our dev meeting and it was just spinning.
also I used George and Christopher's print the patron card number on the receipt, and my staff are super excited about that one.
Well, that wasn't what we were going for at all.
Actually, I stole that from George before the video came out, and yes, rave reviews. The friend desktop here loves it.
I did that such a long time ago, I don't even remember what the reaction was when I added that. I'm glad people are finding it useful.
All right, I found my dashboard report. It was hiding on my test server. Let's see. So this is like the start of it, but this is what I want to like do, cool little dashboard with graphs and infographics and things where the librarian could just go there every month and print off a page that they can give to their board that looks nice visually. It gives like useful stats, that sort of thing. I'd also like to like give it more context because I hate data that's out of context. So like I added the little how many borrowers added last month, but I could do year to date, that sort of thing. So I'm really excited about the potential for that as well. I just don't have time to like flesh it out at this point.
I threw a bug in the chat just out of interest. There's some movement going on the topic of the self-checkout module, and thought people might find it interesting. Would love to get
I think
more put on it.
I need this. So I guess I have a question because we don't use the self-checkout. Like you have to log in with the staff account. Does it know the branch code of that logged in staff account within the interface?
Yes, so it treats it like, a staff member doing the checkout, basically. But the problem right now is if you use auto login, everybody's logging in as that one branch. So it's hard to separate out, stats for one thing, how many patrons are using self-checkout at one particular branch. And it also means that everybody's going by that branch's circ rules. If you're going by branch, the circing library's circ rules, that kind of skews things. So,
So don't use auto login is what I just heard for my situation.
right. But, it also complicates things. I mean, a lot of self-checks don't have a full-size keyboard there. So, and staff have to go around and log in. And so you have to come up with a way for them to log in, make this efficient. It's clunky. That's why we've never used it. It's like, if they gave us some way to indicate the branch in the URL, and we could have, an account to point to under each branch. If we could point to that branch, it could use that user's credentials to log in, and they'd be acting as that branch rather than us having to find a clunky way to get around all this. So that's the discussion. Nick kind of picked up on it and was presenting some thoughts on it. And so it's generating some discussion now, which it's been a while. So and I just, we recently used Koha's self-check, because with our network down, we were hopping on Chromebooks and hotspots, and it was the easiest thing to point to. I had to make some quick adjustments. I had a while back added a button and keypad on screen for inputting the card number, and it was a little off with some of the CSS I was doing, so I updated that and improved that quite a bit. So now I've got that down. If we could just get the login thing perfected, I'd switch over to that in a heartbeat.
I'm not seeing, I just flipped over to my self-check system, and I don't see, when you're just at the login at the page where it's asking the borrower to log into their account, I don't see anything there that tells you which library the staff account belongs to.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I am seeing though that there is a logged in user ID, and so my guess is there might be a way to grab the home library of that logged in user ID from maybe the API.
Well, okay, you're logging, there's two logins. You're logging in
Yeah,
as the staff side, to do the circing, and then you're logging in the patron, and you're initially logging in as that, whatever branch that you're choosing to log in as, and that should be behind the scenes. That shouldn't, and you're not going to be
right.
doing that, especially depending on what the circ rules are. You're not necessarily going to want to circ as, that patron's home branch.
Right.
So,
Yeah, what I've always wanted is I've wanted a way that right now it says next search catalog self-checkout system. I've always wanted a way to have that say which branch which branch is indicated by that. But
yeah,
I don't see a way to grab that other than, there's the logged in user ID is the only thing that I'm seeing
yeah.
as a way to grab, to find a way to put more information there.
I
It'd
think
be
the
nice
closest
if
thing
it,
that you would have at this point is if you knew the branch's IP address and could recognize that and go off of that, and that's never 100%. So if we can get to this point where we can identify the branch through the URL, then that would get us one step closer to where you could do that.
yeah,
This complicates my self-checkout plan of prefixing the student ID numbers. I I've had on my I want to play with list the idea of storing that in a cookie. Make a drop down of the branch codes, have them pick it and say this is where this computer is setting right now, and store that branch code in the background, and then that could be leveraged, and at least until the cookies get wiped. But I haven't. I guess I'm gonna have to play with that sooner than later if I want to make self-check work the way I want it to. But yeah, I this bug sounds like it would also solve that problem that I'm gonna have soon. So hopefully that it does continue moving.
I know I got in late. I don't know what was said prior to Jason's marvelous modifications there, but I had mentioned it to a few people in Slack, and of course Lucas knows about this, but the 0.9 release of 2305 released a day or two ago had a bug in it with the OPAC, where the right panel where patron login information normally resides is down at the bottom of the content because some markers got thrown off in IDs. So Lucas whipped together a patch that's already been QA'd and it's due out for 0.10. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, the OPAC main screen's a little wonky at the moment. I did include a jQuery workaround in the patch in the meantime. So if anybody's running into that, they can do something until that patch gets pushed out. Oh, thank you, Lucas.
I believe this only affects you if you're using news items on your front page.
That'd be why when Christopher told me about it, I said it didn't do anything for us. So
Well, I don't know if it's just if you don't have any news, does that login info not get pushed down?
No, because the part of the template that got included that shouldn't have has to do with the news additional contents. So
Okay.
this one's 100% my fault. It was a result of a bad rebase. So sorry.
Happens. I'm just, I'm glad I noticed it right away. I mean, because we do use notice or news, and I push that over to that right panel, so our main content doesn't get shoved all the way down to the bottom. And so that's why I noticed it right off the bat. It's on our catalog stations, so. So just don't post any news on the OPACs right now.
We don't really use it either, so mine looks great. It's fine.
Well, we use it. We've got like 5 different branches that have problems that we have to let people know about. So we've just got problems all over the place.
Are there other bugs people want to talk about? Or things you've been playing with?
Trying to think of.
I did find some bugs with the report template things that I reported, and those have been fixed. Just weird little things that annoyed me mostly. Like stylings on the buttons, and one of the buttons gives you like a weird hash thing when you click it if you have it turned on.
I do know that there was a bug that was out there that was erasing password expiration dates if you were editing a patron account as a super admin or super librarian, and the patch has been pushed out. So
that sounds really inconvenient.
well, yeah, it can really screw up some data there and some functionality if you're not aware. Lucas, you're just right on top of those bugs.
I fixed that one, so it was right at the top of my list.
Well, thank you for fixing that. And that's due out in the 0.10 as well.
Yes.
So that'll be a particularly needed patch. Oh. So since you've had your fingers in some fixes, are there any other fixes that we should know about for 0.10?
Not that I can think of just off the top of my head. Um,
When does point 10 get released?
it should be released next week.
Oh, wow, that's soon. Okay.
The 25th, I think, is the day that we're aiming for.
Very cool.
So for Bywater Partners, I assume that that means sometime in mid-April you'll get it.
Hmm. Well, not Koha related. We had Bill Kessler and Jesse. They did a demo for a consortium on Aspen yesterday. And every time I hear a presentation on Aspen, it just gets better and better. I think our consortium is pretty much sold on it. If the libraries all sign off on it, I'm looking forward to that. I was glad that I pushed to that again because we had looked at it once and everybody passed, but I think I sold them on the idea now.
You should have gone to the conference. It was a lot of fun.
I would have liked to, but it's too soon in the process. My director wouldn't sign off on that.
It was perfect weather for Christmas.
Hmm.
It was about 2 feet of snow.
Wow. I've never done anything in that kind of weather for travel.
It wasn't on any of the days people were traveling.
But yet my flight got canceled.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And then when I got rerouted, the second flight got canceled.
Oh no.
Not because of snow, but because of mechanical problems. So it took
Oh,
me
man.
2 extra days to get home.
So Christopher, what sorts of updates have they made that like pushed you over to being sold on it? Because we're still sort of like about it. I don't know.
Well, the one thing that's really a plus with it is that it comes with Lita, the app. So, that's huge. Plus the way that patrons can link cards together in the app, in Aspen itself, is huge because it's more functionality than Koha itself, with linking patrons together, so they can have everybody that they want linked together. And in addition, when you do sign in on Lita, you get this, you see all their barcodes, so you can go to self checkout and check out their stuff for them, which is really cool. So that was more than I had known before on that. I also like the way that it lays out series in Aspen. That's huge.
And it
Koha's
has
been a little
Ferber.
clunky in that.
And it
Yes,
has
Yeah,
Ferber.
the Ferberization is one of the reasons we do want it. Although I really just want that built into Koha, and I would be willing to throw money and time at that to help make that happen.
Well, let me say this then, because this Ferberization has been going on for quite a while, and there's a lot of intricacies to it. And while Aspen probably gets it, let's say 85% right, there's many things that we're still working with them to tweak. And I don't know that Bywater will put that degree of effort into the Koha catalog. Like they might do one pass and get you part ways there, but the Aspen people are really, really working on improving the grouping features.
for us, it's the ability to configure all of the different, I have most all of my libraries right now have Hoopla. Some of them have Overdrive. Some of them have other things, tutor.com, and some of them have Canopy. And this way I can't connect all of the overdrive stuff into Koha without the people at all of our libraries seeing it the way we've got Koha set up. So Richmond, if they're going to have patrons that log in and say, oh, this is available on overdrive, and then they're going to go, well, I don't have overdrive, so this way the people at Richmond will just see the stuff that their library has, and then the people at the bigger libraries like Leavenworth and Ottawa and Lansing are going to see the things that their borrowers have access to that the other libraries don't. So that's the number one reason that we're going, is it puts all of that stuff in one place, but then it separates it in such a way that the libraries that don't have access to it don't even see it. So.
And Christopher, you mentioned series. So does it display series in like series order?
Yes.
That I would love.
I love the look of Aspen, and I love how it functions, and it's like I've always been in this position where I'm not sure if I want to fully give over to loving Aspen, because it's like I like Koha, and it's like I feel like I'm being a little traitorous to Koha, when you have to rely on another product in order to deliver something that you'd think Koha should deliver. I get that there's some unique features to Aspen, but some of the basic functionality you'd think should be there in Koha, and it isn't. Which is frustrating. So why do we need two products to do what one should do, for the most part? I mean, so that's what I wrestle with when looking at another catalog delivery. It's like, should this do this?
I agree with you to an extent, but for us, Koha should be made to do all of those things too. But what do we do about right now? That's the issue for us.
Yeah. I would just like to see Aspen as part of Koha, honestly. But I do understand, Aspen serves more than the whole Koha community. So, there is that aspect of it.
Yeah, it was interesting to talk to people that are using Sierra and Symphony and other products at the conference. It was interesting to be outside of the Koha bubble.
So George, by attending that, did you learn even more things about Aspen that you didn't know, or did you learn anything where you thought, oh, that's great, but that's going to like change a workflow or a procedure, and how am I going to handle that? Those kinds of things.
I'm still so new to it that I don't know that I learned any workflows yet. I did learn that, we did a big catalog cleanup last year, and we added authority control, but there's still a few issues and things that we haven't figured out with all of that. And looking at our records, there are a lot of things that would be easier if we did even more cleanup to our records. There's a lot of problems with leaders and 007s and 008s that we could do even more cleanup to, that will make this transition even easier. So we don't even have our Aspen servers set up yet. So we're really early in the implementation. So I'm spending some time this week and probably next working on trying to figure out what bits and pieces in the record cleanup we still need to get better at. So because that is going to have a big effect on how well Aspen works. That's one thing everybody said, is that Aspen really uncovers all of the problems in your catalog that you didn't even know you had.
Which I'm all in favor for. We
Yeah,
need to do some things right.
we have a lot of cataloging where my predecessors said, we don't need to worry about the 000 and the 007 and the 008 being right, because we don't have anything that really needs that information as much as we need like title, author, and other stuff. But Aspen really does need a lot of information from there. So we only have essentially one bibliographic framework that everybody's been using for the last 16 years. And so there's a lot of records that need a lot of cleanup in some of those areas. So
I would
coming
love
up with
I would love to see some more guidance on record cleanup, especially diving into authority records, because we basically have ignored authority records since we got into Koha. I mean, there's some stuff there. I don't know where it came from, but it's not being utilized. And
I know John Hartung told me you guys did an authority control project like in 2008 or 2009 is what he told me. It was a long time ago.
yeah, it's like, not
So
since we've been in
George,
Koha, that's for sure.
George, you did the project. Do you feel like it was worthwhile? And like, how has it improved your catalog, I guess?
Getting the cleanup done improved a lot. One of the problems we had that we didn't realize we were going to have is that the authority records, when you try to match them with the automatic matching in Koha, it matches on the A fields and not the authority control record, not on the subfield that has like the record number in it. And so there's some issues where we're matching what has a Library of Congress authority control record number in the subject field on the bibliographic record, and it's matching to like a fast heading in the authority control record, because the A fields are the same, but the underlying numbers, which is like the
The
010.
RLIN or whatever.
Yeah, no, the RLIN is the Koha number,
Okay.
because Koha gives a number to each. When you create the authorities in Koha, it gives it that number. That's the number that links the records. But there's another number for the source record that has the source records identifier in the system that created the authority control record to begin with. And so the Library of Congress numbers usually have DLC in one field, and then the Library of Congress authority record number in a different field. And the fast headings have FST in the identifier, and then the FST number in a different field. And Koha just matches on the words in the A field, not on those underlying record numbers. And it'd be nice if it said, oh, if the number in the authority control record is this, and the number in the subject field in the U field in that one, if they match, then they're a match.
So is that a bug with Koha, or is that
I think it's an oversight.
An oversight. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just an initial setup issue. There's
it's just
shortcomings in how it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think I'm gonna continue to ignore authorities. I mean, we use them and we link them, but like,
you just use the self creator, right?
yeah, well, that, and it's been a busy work project for summer help. Like, they'll go and overlay the credit records with Library of Congress records via Z39. But I guess I just never felt like it would be impactful enough. Like, our searching is okay. Like, Koha searches keyword really well, especially since we switched to Elasticsearch. So like, I'm on the fence over like, is it worthwhile to actually spend the money to get our authority file cleaned up?
So does Koha catalog link where it lists the subject headings? Does it link them so that you can again see all titles with that same subject heading? Okay.
Yeah. And the issue we're having is that we added some of our records had fast headings and some of them had Library of Congress headings. And so when we brought in both and they match, then Koha has a hard time figuring out which one to match to.
I think Koha needs some AI when it comes to importing records, because the catalogers don't want to even care about what
Well,
they're
and
bringing in.
one of the biggest failings we have is that we have a lot of very unskilled, untrained catalogers. Not because they didn't learn in library school, but because they didn't even go to library school, because they're 12-hour-a-week, 15-hour-a-week employees. Are the directors of the libraries are part-time employees that have, if people can find the book, they don't care if what the quality of the cataloging record is.
Yeah. It's a mixed bag here. I was becoming aware of how messed up the records were, because when I started regularly putting up some displays on some themes, and I would search subjects, I started discovering, oh, we have double subjects, because these two subjects are, well, it's duplicated in there. And there is no quality control.
Yeah, and I'm
place.
sure that the issue there is that one of those subjects, the source of the subject heading is Library of Congress, and the other one, the source of the other subject that's duplicated is
Fast.
And so they've got different indicators, and they've got different subfield U and different, all of those. The words are the same in the A in the subject A subfield, but all the other things in there are probably different. And that's
I
why
wish at least Koha would complain about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
that it would say, these look a little similar. What do you think?
Yeah.
Better twice than not at all, though.
Yeah,
At
that's
least
true
you have
too.
an access point.
Yeah, at least there's an access point.
So this is we got off
We got
the
way
web dev
off on,
talking. Talked about cataloging, so that's okay though, because it's interesting.
not
And
just cataloging, but cataloging and how it relates to Aspen. So
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have another Aspen question since we're just down that road. Did they talk about push notifications at all? Like last time we were in a room with them, they said they're working on it.
yeah, and that was essentially what they said. I think they're a lot closer, but the Lita app is gonna have some push notifications soon, it sounds like.
That'll be nice.
That's one thing that impresses me about Aspen, is just how aggressive the update cycle is. It's an update every month. There's new features every month. And they're married to that. There's the way they see it is, it's the way they actually just Mark and Jordan both said that they felt that it was more important. They said with other software you get an update like once a year or twice a year, and so there's a major changes twice a year with Koha. There's new features twice a year, and so when you have like 4 or 5 new features with each release, then there's a lot to learn with each release. But they said if by doing it monthly, there's like just a little bit to learn each month, and so it doesn't seem they feel like it's a more steady progress with what they're doing. But they're committed to monthly releases, so
So
I
bringing
kind of like that.
it back to Koha though, it would be super cool if Koha eventually got that functionality as well. I saw somebody had posted trying to turn the OPAC into a progressive web app, which in theory could also have its own push notifications if it got there. Um, so I'm excited to see if that project goes anywhere and if someone writes out documentation on how to do that. Yeah.
Since this has been kind of a Aspen discussion too, I'll say that I went to I was part of the documentation roundtable, which met in the restaurant because we couldn't go back to the College of Mines because the School of Mines closed for the last 2 days of the conference. They canceled classes and closed the college. So we were just sitting around the lobby of the restaurant and had to walk there through 18 inches of snow. But that's where Aspen, I think it might be its biggest weakness right now, is that there is a lack of documentation. The documentation for Koha, it's spread out. You know, there's documentation, there's the main documentation site, and then there's the wiki, and then there's a few other places where you can go to learn about Koha. But with Aspen, there's a lot less codified. There isn't really a good, there's only one source of official documentation, and it's kind of lacking in a lot of areas. So
Surprised they're not picking up on Koha's model for documentation.
well, one of the reasons they're not is because the Koha model of documentation is a little bit, we talked about that the areas where there's, where documentation is needed is documentation for developers on how to install, how to develop, how to use the system preferences, and how to set the software up. And then there needs to be documentation for library staff. How do you do this, how do you do that, ways for library staff to share things that they've come up with there on their own. And then documentation for the end users, for the patrons, for the borrowers. And one of the issues with Koha is, that's in like several different places, and they want to try to put it all in one place. And I'm not sure if that's something that's really going to work. So it's right now, the documentation that there's an Aspen Discovery Help Center that's done in Aspen. They are using an Aspen system to store all of their documentation. And so that makes it hard for it to be a place for end users to for librarians to put data, because then you have to have a login to go in and edit that documentation and to create that documentation. And so the wiki is a lower bar to edit than going in and using the Aspen web builder to create new pages in
Except
the Aspen Help Center.
Except trying to get an account on the freaking wiki.
Yeah, and well, right now the wiki's down, apparently, is what you guys
Yeah.
said at the beginning, and I just looked and it is still down. And so I hopped over to the IRC, and there was a discussion earlier today about the wiki being down. So I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, and that's one thing that we have had a couple of problems with Koha in the past that I mentioned to Janelle when I'm getting tongue-tied, that sometimes with the Koha wiki, you can ask to create an account, or I needed to change a password one time, and the automatic features didn't work, and it took a while to find the right person to kick it and get it to do what it was supposed to do. And I don't know if you asked or not, but I think somebody may have kicked it and kicked the whole thing down.
I did ask, and they said they re-triggered the email that's supposed to be sent to me, and I didn't get it, and I told them that. So apparently, while they were trying to solve that problem, they brought the wiki down. That's my guess.
Cool. Congratulations.
So it's your fault.
Yeah.
So I threw a bug over in the chat just for everyone's FYI, involving the moving of overdue messaging preferences, so that those can be included with other messaging preferences. I haven't actually looked at what the end results are on that, but it's a step in the right direction, I think.
Well, somebody's
Yeah.
written a patch and it just needs sign off, it looks like.
This is always something that confuses people when I'm like training them up on, there's the messages that you opt into as a individual patron, but then there's the overdues, which are required and mandatory, and like explaining that is tough. So having the delivery mechanism in the patron account would definitely help make
Yeah,
that make more
especially
sense.
being able to choose between which format to get it in,
Yeah.
which doesn't currently exist. But this is one of several things that they can't select. I mean, there's a whole lot more going on in notifications than just what's in the messaging preferences that you
Oh
have no
yeah.
choice over.
Well, the one that I had the other week was some 90-year-old lady was really mad that she got a password reset email, and I had a request to turn that off, and I'm like, is it ethical to like limit that by birthday so that old people don't get it? I decided no, so I tried to talk that library out of turning it off because it is an important security notice, but it would be nice to opt that individual lady out of it because she's just gonna get agitated if she sees it again. I agree.
Well, I need to head over to another meeting, so I'm gonna take off. I'll see everybody later.
Yep, I
Me,
think
me
that's
too. Bye.
good stopping point. Thanks everybody, and we'll see y'all next month.